We're just having some technical difficulties. You can just hold on just for 1 minute. We'll get that sorted.
Sorry, everyone. We're just trying to get this figured out. We should have it up very shortly.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Real Estate Council of Alberta, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for our information session about getting licensed. As you can see from the agenda, we'll be covering a lot of information today. Due to the large number of attendees, the chat feature is disabled and all participant microphones will remain muted for the duration. When we have concluded our presentation, feel free to ask us any general questions by inputting them into the Q&A dialog box. We'll respond to as many questions as we can before wrapping up in about an hour. Today's presentation provides general information about eligibility, education, and licensing requirements and processes. If you have questions about your specific circumstances, we ask that you contact the Registration Services team by phone or email during regular business hours to discuss them. Our contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation. We'll be emailing a copy of this presentation and a recording of the information session to all participants. With that, let's get started. All members of the Registration Services team are RECA brand ambassadors. and we strive to embody RICA's values. We aim to protect, inform, and elevate through all of our day-to-day interactions with applicants and licensees. Our goal is to surpass RICA's service excellence principles as we carry out our important function of vetting applicants and their credentials. RICA licenses and regulates 3 distinct but related industries within Alberta: real estate, mortgage brokerage, and condominium management. Anyone who provides these services to consumers in Alberta must be licensed through RICA. An often overlooked but important distinction to make is that property management and condominium management are different areas of practice. In fact, property management is a sector within the real estate industry. Condominium management is a separate industry altogether. If you want to be licensed in one of these industries, you've come to the right place. There are 3 primary phases in the path to getting licensed: the eligibility phase, the education phase, and the licensing phase. Depending on your circumstances, you may have to complete all the steps in the education phase, some of these steps, or none of them. We'll cover all the information you need to know about the 3 phases as we get further into the presentation. Before you get started in the first phase, eligibility, we recommend that you carefully review the eligibility requirements that are applicable to your circumstances and ensure you can meet them, as your application fee is non-refundable. If you have determined that you meet the eligibility requirements for your particular circumstances, you can get started by creating a MyRICA account and completing the first-time login process. The answers you provide in the first-time login process will guide you to the correct eligibility or labor mobility application. Complete the relevant application and pay the application fee. Once you have completed payment, you can begin uploading your identification documents. Contact any third parties that will need to send documents to us on your behalf. The first phase you must complete in your path to getting licensed is the eligibility phase. You must meet certain eligibility requirements before you can enroll in and complete pre-licensing education or have your non-Alberta license recognized through labor mobility. We'll cover these requirements in depth over the next several slides. It's important to note that there are different requirements depending on your path. Let's dig in. All applicants must meet the first eligibility requirement, which is to provide proof of their identity and ability to work in Canada. RICA is mandated to protect consumers and the integrity of the industries we regulate. Registration specialists employ rigorous identification measures to ensure RICA achieves its mandate. The first identification document that all applicants must provide is a profile photo. Your profile photo should be clear, face-centered, and should not obscure your identity. Keep in mind your profile photo will be visible to RICA staff and your future broker. The second identification document applicants must provide is a copy of source identification, such as a birth certificate, PR card, or proof of Canadian citizenship. This document contains your full legal name and is the name that will appear in your MyRICA account and on your future license. If your source identification document does not contain a first name, your MyRICA account and future license will not include a first name either. You cannot substitute a passport for the source identification document. Passports do not always contain a person's full legal name. Applicants must also provide a copy of one piece of government-issued photo identification, such as one of the documents listed in 1C. If you've had a different legal name previously, you must disclose this in your application and provide proof of this name. The second eligibility requirement that all applicants must meet is proof of English proficiency. Licensees must be able to practice proficiently in Alberta's official language. RECA's minimum English proficiency standard is successful completion of English 30 in high school or equivalent. If you completed your education in Canada, you can request your high school, college, or university to send your transcript directly to RECA. If you didn't graduate high school but received your GED, you can request Alberta Education to send it to us. If you completed your education outside of Canada, you can have your international high school, college, or university transcript assessed by a member of the Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada and sent directly to RECA. Not all members of ACESC include the language of instruction in their assessments. Your assessment must state that the language of instruction for your course or diploma or degree program was English. If you're unable to provide a Canadian education transcript or an assessment of your international education, you can have your English assessed by one of the institutions listed. There are minimum scores that you must meet for each of these tests, and your test must have been completed within the past 3 years. The third eligibility requirement, proof of completion of a minimum of high school or equivalent, applies to new licensees only. If you hold a license in another Canadian province or an international jurisdiction outside of Canada, this requirement does not apply to you. If you are a new licensee applicant, not a labor mobility applicant, and you completed your education in Canada, you can request your high school, college, or university to send your transcript directly to RECA. If you didn't graduate high school but received your GED, you can request Alberta Education to send it to us. If you completed your education outside of Canada, you can have your international high school, college, or university transcript assessed by a member of the Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada and sent directly to RECA. The fourth and final eligibility requirement applies to labor mobility applicants only. If you're licensed in another jurisdiction within Canada or hold a license abroad, you must provide proof of licensure in good standing. Your licensing history must be sent by the regulatory body in your originating jurisdiction directly to RECA, and it must include your disciplinary history. Once all required supporting documents have been received for your eligibility or labor mobility application, your application is complete and will be automatically submitted to our processing queue. The Registration Services team processes applications in the order they are received. We receive between 150 and 200 completed eligibility and labor mobility applications every week. This is in addition to the dozens of other applications we receive, along with managing consistently high call and email volumes daily. You can help the Registration Services team review and process incoming applications and respond to calls and emails in a timely manner by viewing the status of your application and required supporting documents in your MyRECA account instead of contacting us for updates. Once your application is complete and has been submitted to our processing queue, you can expect an email with the outcome of our review within the next several business days. You can view our current processing times on the MyRECA login screen or on the My Applications page of your MyRECA account. Much like the eligibility requirements, the education phase differs depending on your circumstances. New licensees that are not licensed in another jurisdiction must complete pre-licensing education and exams before they can apply for their license. Canadian labor mobility applicants are exempt from pre-licensing education and exam requirements. International labor mobility applicants are exempt from pre-licensing education, but must successfully complete the related exams. All pre-licensing education courses must be completed through a recognized course provider. Pre-licensing exams are developed by RECA and administered by our partner, Pearson VUE. Please refer to the step-by-step licensing guide that is applicable to your circumstances. Once you have completed the first two phases, the eligibility phase and the education phase, you're ready to move on to phase 3, licensing. If you haven't already, you'll want to meet with a few brokers to find a brokerage that is a fit for you and get your criminal record check, or CRC, underway. When you have found a brokerage and we have received and processed your CRC, your broker will initiate your licensing application for you through MyRECA. The entire licensing process is completed online, and provided there are no suitability matters that the registrar needs to review, your license will be issued automatically in a few simple steps. As a first-time licensee in Alberta, you must provide a current criminal record check, or CRC, to be eligible for licensing. Your CRC must be less than 6 months old at the time you apply for your license. When you're ready to apply for your license, complete the digital CRC application through your MyRECA account. We'll get the results in a couple of days from our partner, Mintz Global Screening, and we'll email you when we've received and processed it. All first-time licensees must demonstrate that they are of good character and are suitable for licensing. Certain events that have taken place in the past may bring your character into question. Events such as bankruptcies, discipline, criminal charges and convictions, and certain civil judgments must be disclosed at the time of licensing and could impact your ability to get a license. If you're concerned about something in your past that may impact your suitability for licensing, you may request an opinion from the registrar as to your suitability. This is called a suitability review. If you choose to undertake a suitability review, your eligibility application fee includes this. We do not recommend that labor mobility applicants request a suitability review. The intention of a suitability review is to avoid the significant financial and time investment in completing pre-licensing education and exams prior to applying for and being refused a license due to suitability concerns. We've included a comprehensive list of resources to assist you along your journey to getting licensed. We've also included our contact information should you need help along the way. As mentioned, we'll email this presentation to you when we've concluded our Q&A session so that you can refer back to this page or any page in the presentation at any time. That concludes our presentation on getting licensed. Thanks for sticking with us. We'd like to take a moment to find out what kind of applicant you are. Please respond to the poll we've initiated and then post any questions you have in the Q&A dialog box. We'll give you a few minutes to respond to the poll and enter your questions before we begin responding.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us there. Having some technical difficulties, technology. Okay, well, we're just gonna, we'll leave up a poll. Keep answering that. And if anyone has any questions, put them in the Q&A, which it looks like there are quite a few already. So yeah, keep them coming. But my name is Rachel. I'm one of the registration services specialists at RECA. I'm joined by my colleague Scott, also in registration services. And then we have Amber working. She's in the background, just going to answer some questions. Like she's going to be typing out answers to questions, I guess, just if the questions are a little too personal or if they've already been answered. She's going to be doing that in the background. And then me and Scott are going to be answering some questions live. So, I guess I think I've everything I need to do. Okay. Without further ado, let's get into some of these questions. So the first one is RECA the only licensing body for licensing in Alberta? So RECA licenses individuals, I guess they're the regulatory body for condominium management, real estate, which includes property management, and the mortgage industry. So I guess the answer is yes for those industries. They are the only licensing body for those industries. There are other like boards and some other organizations, I guess, that are involved in the real estate, mortgage, and condominium management industries in Alberta. But RECA is the only licensing body in Alberta for those, I guess, 3 or 4 industries, whatever you want to call them. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, and then the next question is the license valid to work in all of Alberta? So yes, it is. And do you need to do anything different to work in Alberta, Edmonton, or Lethbridge, for example? So as Rachel mentioned, you might need to join a different board depending on what industry you're working in. But from a licensing perspective, no, you don't.
Perfect. Okay, next one. Does the license have an expiry date? So I guess there's a few expiry dates that you do want to keep in mind. The first one being that I guess after you complete your courses, so there is a practice course, and you'll have 1 year from the date that you complete that practice course to become licensed. Then the other expiry dates, I guess, every year, every licensee needs to renew their license. And so the renewal deadline is September 30th. So if that, once you're licensed and then you miss that deadline, then yes, your license does, or I guess is deemed to be terminated. I guess that's probably all we'll go into. There is the ability to like park a license afterwards, but that doesn't come later. And this is kind of a general licensing webinar. So it's just kind of like how to get licensed. And if you have any other questions, you can always email registration@reca.ca. Information@reca.ca is another good one if you just have like general questions. But yeah.
So the next question is, can I get licensed for both residential and commercial at the same time, or do I need to focus? So yes, you can definitely take both courses after you've completed the fundamentals of real estate. You can take as many practice areas as you want at one time. That would be a personal decision. That would be totally up to you.
Okay. How much is the application fee and license renewal fees? So the application fee, there is a fee when you first apply for eligibility, and that's $350 for the education eligibility application fee. Yeah, and then after that, you're required to provide us with, I guess, well, there's courses after that. They have different prices. And then a licensing fee, depends on the industry. There is a fee schedule on our website. Hoping you guys can still see this, but yeah, there are under licensees and learners. You just mouse over that, go to fees, and all the fee schedules are on there for the different industries. Yeah, take a look at that, and that hopefully answers your question.
Okay, so the next one is, can you switch to BC after completing the education? So that's going to be more so a question for the regulator in BC. However, once you're licensed, you're likely eligible for labor mobility. But again, you'd want to reach out to BC FSA if you're looking for information on that process.
Okay, and next question. For high school completion and my English, do I need to upload those documents in phase 1 or send to you directly? So we don't accept any transcript from an individual. You do need to have either like it'll be either the government, if it's like a high school diploma, your post-secondary institution. Yeah, we'll need to receive them directly from either the government or the education institution. And I think that answers your question.
Okay, so do I need to create a MyRika account before getting my international credentials assessed? So that's going to be a personal decision on whether you do that or not. From our perspective, it is best if we have an application in the system by the time those credentials reach us. So depending on how long, you can just time the sequence of that. But it is definitely recommended to create the application prior to having those assessments sent to us.
Okay. Is the course from U of C, Practice of Residential Real Estate, provide a course number, recommended / a requirement to become licensed? So so there are, not yes that we recommend this, but so there are different course providers. There's third-party course providers for all the courses now. Rika used to provide courses. Now they're divested to other course providers. We can't recommend a specific course. But for anyone who is interested in becoming a residential real estate licensee, then they would have to take the fundamentals of real estate course and then that practice of residential real estate. And I guess on our website, under education, you can find all the course providers for all the different industries. So there's, I think, 7 for fundamentals of real estate. And then if you just scroll down, you'll be able to see all the practice courses, and you can kind of see the stats on the website as well. And that can kind of guide you into making a decision of what course you want to take from which course provider.
Okay, so we have a question about English proficiency requirements for labor mobility when coming from a different jurisdiction. So again, they're going to be the same English proficiency requirements as any other application. Sometimes the license history that we receive from those jurisdictions will include that you have already met that requirement, but otherwise it's going to be an English assessment or high school transcripts or university or one of the international assessments. But if you have specific questions about that, feel free to give us a call.
I have a high school diploma, but I took English 33 instead of English 30. Do I have to upgrade to English 30? No. So as long as we receive a high school transcript that both indicates that you have a high school diploma and that indicates that you've taken a grade 12 English course, English 33, I assume that's an Alberta course, but yeah, that meets our requirements. So you don't have to take like 30-1, the highest one. You can take 30-2. English 33. We see some like English 12 courses just from individuals who have graduated high school a little while ago. No, I don't believe you would need to upgrade.
So we have a question, do official high school transcripts or college transcripts need to be sent directly from the issuing organization? So yes, they definitely do. We don't accept them directly from applicants. In some cases, if you have original documentation, we will accept that. But for the most part, it needs to be sent directly by that issuing organization or through the platforms that they provide for delivering those transcripts.
Okay. I am going to, again, I hope you can see my screen. Under licensees and learners, we do have a guide for eligibility. And to get there, you just scroll down to new licensees, click on that guide. That'll tell you a lot of this information that we're giving you here today. So for anyone who does want to apply for eligibility, that's definitely a good place to start, is to look at that guide for eligibility, which can be found on the RECA website. Okay, anyway, next question. I saw on your website that you must be 18 years old to become licensed. I wanted to ask if it's possible to begin the real estate licensing program at age 17 and then complete the licensing process once I turn 18. No. So one of the questions that is on the eligibility application is whether or not you are 18. So yeah, I guess unfortunately you do need to be 18 to become eligible to take courses in any of the industries that RECA regulates. So I guess yeah, you just need to wait until you're 18 and then you can apply for the education eligibility application once you've turned 18.
So what happens if you miss the September 30th cutoff for renewals? In that case, you'd have to do a license reinstatement, which would need to be initiated by your broker. You might end up paying additional fees by allowing your license to lapse.
Okay, what do you need to do in other provinces if you get licensed in Alberta? I assume that you're asking what do you need to do to become licensed in another province, or I guess to like practice in real estate or mortgage or do any licensed activities in another province. So yeah, the presentation did speak about labor mobility. So it goes both ways. So that people that are licensed in other jurisdictions, whether that be Canada, the States, international, there are like reciprocity agreements, depending where you're from. But in other provinces, yeah, so say you're licensed currently in BC, or I guess, sorry, your question is if you get licensed in Alberta, then can you go over to another province? So to do that, I guess it's called an occupational certificate. And that just indicates like your licensing history, and RECA, it's a document that you can request from RECA to send over to another jurisdiction in another province. But yeah, I mean, most provinces would need you to be licensed in that province as well in the same industries. So.
Are there subsidies available for the application fee? So unfortunately, this isn't a question that we would actually be able to answer. Whether or not there are, that would be through other organizations. RECA itself does not offer any subsidies for it.
For the 2-year work requirement for a mortgage brokerage license, is it full-time work or can it be part-time? There are no requirements for that. So basically when we go into I guess eligibilize or make sure that an individual is eligible to become a principal broker or a broker, there's lots of, I guess, different terms for it, but when we do that, we're just looking at licensing history. So have you been licensed in the last at least 2 years out of the last 5? There's really no way for us to differentiate part-time versus full-time. I guess we do kind of warn brokers to, not undertake any activities that they're not confident in. But yeah, that's about it.
Can you go through the training to sit in the exam while you're on unemployment insurance? So again, this is going to be a question that we're not able to answer. If you have specific questions about the rules and regulations related to unemployment insurance or employment insurance, you'd want to reach out to the Government of Canada.
Okay. So once I'm done the education phase, do I need to join a brokerage right away? So once you have completed your practice course, so doesn't matter what industry you're in, I guess condominium management's a little bit different, but for real estate and mortgage, once you've completed that practice course, then you'd have 1 year to become licensed with a brokerage. Otherwise, your education would expire. So you don't need to join a brokerage right away, but you do have that time frame or that expiry date, I guess, of 1 year from the date that you complete that practice course.
For property management, do you need the real estate full license? So property management is its own sector within inside of the real estate industry. You don't need to be licensed in all 4 sectors in order to work in property management. You would just need to complete the fundamentals course and then the practice of property management. However, if you did want to go on and become a broker at some point and run your own business, then yes, you would need to be licensed in all 4.
Okay. Is it difficult to find a brokerage after education? I have not heard that it is, but I think it kind of just depends on a multitude of factors, I suppose. Like there's a brokerage or like a license search on the RECO website that can be helpful to find a brokerage. Obviously, Googling or looking at like job postings on some of those websites can be helpful. But yeah, I guess it's just kind of dependent on, quite a few factors, I suppose.
Is licensing happening individually, or is there a certain timeline for it? So licensing happens all throughout the year. It depends on when you complete your education, when you've completed your criminal record check, and ultimately when you're ready to get licensed. So it can happen at any time, although everybody has to renew at the same time, which is by the end of September. So September 30th will be the cutoff for renewals. And then when renewing a license, do you need extra education? So we haven't had mandatory education for real estate for a couple of years. However, it's always possible that there may be mandatory education or continuing education requirements.
Can you explain where a broker comes into the process? So yeah, brokers are basically like the managers, I guess, is kind of a equivalent of the brokerages. So in order for anyone to be licensed in Alberta, they need to be licensed under a brokerage. So like that broker would come in and add the individual as an associate, I guess associate broker in the context of real estate. Yeah, so it's kind of just like a broker is a step above the associate, and they are the ones who actually initiate the license for the individuals.
Can you do real estate and mortgage brokerage at the same time? So again, once you're approved for eligibility, you would be able to enroll in the fundamentals of mortgage or the fundamentals of real estate, and you could do those simultaneously if you want. It might be quite a bit of work to do them both at the same time, but that ultimately would be up to you.
Okay. Okay, following my earlier question for licensing in BC, person wanted to clarify for English proficiency, the requirement states that a letter or other evidence from your current or recent broker confirming that you are competent to practice in the regulated profession in English. Would that be from the current brokerage that I am registered with? Yes, that's exactly kind of what it's saying. Either your current broker over in BC or a recent broker. So they would send us an email or like a letter via email indicating that your English proficiency that your English proficiency is like you've had skills in that and English proficiency. And that can, for labor mobility applicants, that can meet the English proficiency requirement is to get that letter from your current or most recent broker.
Do I have to complete the fundamentals course first before taking any of the practice areas? So yes, you definitely have to take the fundamentals course first. That would be the starting point for it. And then once you've completed that and passed the exam, you'd be able to move on to the practice area that you're looking at. So that would definitely be a requirement.
Okay, and this is the last question for now. So I mean, we've got 15 minutes if people have other questions, but so this says, would it be wise to approach a brokerage before committing to school? I mean, I guess we can't really recommend, certain circumstances or what's best for anyone, but you can certainly reach out to a brokerage before you start taking education. You just won't be able to become licensed with the actual brokerage and perform licensed activities until you're actually eligible for licensing. So, which includes completing that pre-licensing education, submitting a criminal record check to RICA, and then that broker adding you as an associate to that brokerage.
So is there a time limit for completing the courses once you start them? So the course timelines are set by the course providers. Many of them do have time limits. What exactly those time limits are is something that you'd want to reach out to the third-party course providers for. Now, something just to keep in mind with this, though, is after you've completed your practice area course, you'd have 1 year from the date of the exam in order to get licensed. After that, if you're unlicensed by the end of that period of time, the education would expire.
Okay, the next one. Oops. I was just trying to search because I feel like there used to be something on our website. Sorry, I guess the question is, what would be some good questions to ask the broker to determine if it's the right one for you? I felt like there was something on our website that had questions like that, but I can't find it. So, I guess, yeah, I don't know what you could ask. You could ask, um,
You could
what
ask them
their,
about fees,
yep,
how much it's going to cost to be part of the brokerage, what
yep,
type of support they're going to offer you throughout,
good one.
as well as what kind of marketing requirements. Just essentially the same types of things that you'd ask any employer. Ultimately,
Exactly.
the broker is going to be your employer, and so you just want to know that sort of thing. But really, the key is going to be how much support they're going to provide and how much is it going to cost to be a part of the brokerage.
Good save, Scott. Want me to answer another one? I'll answer this one. Okay. How much is the CRC on the RICA site? So yeah, criminal record check. You can apply for that on the MyRICA site. It goes to a third-party provider called Mints. I believe it's like less than $50. Yeah, and then you can go to a police station and get a criminal record check from there. I'm just not sure of the costs of those ones though.
So we have a question about how I've been able to be an apartment manager with a company without a license. So that's a little bit of a personal question that we wouldn't be able to get into, and it's beyond the scope of this presentation. If you do have questions about that, you could always reach out to our info team and they'd be able to advise you on the requirements. Also on our website, we do have lists of what the requirements are and what requires a license and what does not.
I want to get a license to be a realtor. Can I get the license and find the broker later to practice? No. So to get a license, a broker needs to add you as a licensee to their brokerage. So like we've said, you complete the education, you receive or you apply for a criminal record check, you become eligible for licensing, and then to become licensed, a broker needs to add you to the brokerage. So yes, you have like a year from the time that you complete that practice course till to find a broker and to become licensed. But to get licensed is to be licensed at a brokerage that's licensed in Alberta. Yeah, I'll answer next one, or do you want to go, Scholar?
Sure. Do you have to join a broker if you want to start your own property management business? So you would need to become a broker first if you wanted to start your own business. And in order to do that, you would need to gain work experience, which would necessitate joining a brokerage and working under a broker for a period of time.
What does the 2 years of experience mean exactly before starting the broker licensing route? So 2 years of experience equals it's 2 years of licensed history, I guess, licensed experience. Yeah, you need to be licensed with a licensed brokerage in Alberta for at least 2 years out of the last 5. And there's other requirements. Become a broker. And there is on the website some information about brokerage licensing, opening a brokerage, broker eligibility here. And that does include for real estate, it does include property management. So you have to be licensed in all 4 sectors, including property management for real estate.
So what is the path to be an owner of a management business? Would you have to become a broker first? So assuming that you're referring to a property management business, yes, you would definitely need to become a broker first, which would require you to be licensed in all of the sectors, and then complete the broker education after having sufficient work experience.
And I guess you could own a brokerage without being like licensed as the broker. But yeah, that's getting heavy into those weeds. There are like brokerages that are non-broker owned, but yeah, to be the broker, like Scott said. Well, that's all the questions. So unless anyone else has any questions, we can end it early. We started a little late, but hey, you guys are good. Okay, well, yep, nothing's come in, so I'd say let's end it here. Thank you everyone for attending. We will email you a copy of this presentation within a couple days, probably by the end of the week. Again, thank you for attending. Hope you learned a couple things, and maybe we'll speak to some of you in registration services later or see that you've gotten licensed. Oh, I guess there's one more question. Short-term rentals fall in line with property management. That
would be more of a question for info. It really depends on what you're referring to when speaking about short-term rentals and whether you're talking about managing them. I'd recommend just giving us a call and speaking to the information department about that.
Airbnbs. Yeah, exactly. Even if it is Airbnbs, give information services a call. Okay, one more. if you aren't handling any of the funds, all payments directly to and from the owners, how does that work? Again, I think that's probably more of a question for information services. They can tell you when you can and when you must have a license in these certain situations. So, info@rica.ca is their email address, and they should be able to help you out there. All right. Okay, we're ending it there. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your day.